Hello. Let me read you a definition of a business presentation. A rushed and anxious presenter stands in front of a room and shows a set of unrelated, overcomplicated slides that he or she begged, borrowed, or stole from a colleague, and then proceeds to read them verbatim to a bored and impatient audience for far too long. The presenter then opens the floor to questions and provides canned answers. Sound familiar? That's the legacy of business presentations. And we've all been there, and we know what happens there. My program, Power Presentations, addresses each of those in a far more effective way. That program runs 3 full days. We don't have 3 full days here. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to address each of those factors with the best practice. The factors that we're involved with here are story, slides, delivery skills, and Q&A. The most important factors in a story are the point and the benefit. Let me explain that. How often have you sat in a presentation and said to yourself, "What's the point?" Or as the teenagers put it, "And your point is?" There's no point. There's no clarity. The presentation proceeds without any direction, without any objective. We call that point B. What is the call to action? Every presentation must have a call to action. The reason we call it point B is that it assumes or demands that you, the presenter, know who the audience is at point A, at the beginning of the presentation. Then you can lead them to point B at the end of the presentation. So always decide on the point. When you're analyzing the audience, you have to understand what they want in order for them to act on your call to action. That's the benefit. How often have you sat in a presentation and said to yourself, "What does this have to do with me?" Or "Why should I care?" Well, the way to identify what the audience should care about is to decide on what's called the WIFI. WIFI, which stands for WIIFY, or what's in it for you. Most people think about what's in it for me, but that's the presenter's point of view. It's far more important that the presenter take the audience's point of view. What's in it for you? The 2 vital elements of any story. What's the point and what's the WIFI? With slides, the danger in the presentation I defined for you at the beginning is to use the slides as a document. The slides cannot be a document. The slides have to be support for the presenter. Think about this. Microsoft's Office, the leading office software suite, has many applications. One is for presentations, the other is for documents. One is called PowerPoint, the other is called Word. You cannot conflate the two. When you're using slides, use them for presentation, slideware only. And design your slides under the classic less is more principle. We now turn to the delivery skills. Most business people have never been actors. Business people are not performers. Being in front of an audience is a stressful situation. How does one deal with that? Very simple methodology, we call it conversation. Treat every presentation as a series of one-to-one conversations. A presentation with John, a presentation with Linda, a presentation with Mary, a presentation with Jim, a presentation with Tom, Dick, and Harry. And have conversations with your audience. We come to the 4th and final factor, questions and answers. I had the privilege of having had a background at CBS television where my job as a journalist was to ask people tough questions. People want to know how to handle the tough questions. I tell them a very important factor before you talk about handling or answering is to listen. Unfortunately, presenters walk into a room with those canned answers. that have nothing or may have nothing to do with the original question. So the way to do that is to listen first before you answer. And if you don't understand the question, a very simple technique is to say, would you mind helping me out in restating the question? So there you have it. Tell a story that has a point and a benefit for the audience. Design the slides to illustrate the presentation and not serve as a document. Treat the presentation as a series of one-to-one conversations with your delivery, and before you answer the question, any question, make sure that you have understood the question. That's one tip each for a 3-day program in 5 minutes. Make your presentation a power presentation.